From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
I'm Jonathan Amberian outside Helena. Aquatic invasive species checkpoints like this one have been stopping more vessels contaminated with invasive mussels this year. I'll have a closer look at the data.
It's the story of 3 chicks, 1 bus, and 1,000 adventures. I'm Holly Brantley with the story of the summer coming up.
All right, 6:30 on this Monday. Chet Lehman, Matt Elwell with you there. That pinkish red thing that we used to refer to as the sun, our closest star.
Yep.
93 million miles away.
It was hard to see.
Still can't hardly see it.
You can barely see it. It's a little better now than it was yesterday, even late in the day, but it's still nasty air quality. I'll talk about the air quality in just a little bit. Temperatures right now, a mix of 40s and 50s, our coolest temperature. West Yellowstone sitting at 37 degrees. There's that reddish dot in the sky. Temperatures topping out into the mid-90s today. Not a lot of wind, not much change for us for the next day. But we do start to see some shifts in our weather pattern, maybe for the cooler and maybe some rain included in the forecast. I'll talk about it coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, thank you, Matt. 6:31, our top story this half hour. Park County Undersheriff Clay Herbst says an inmate escaped last night from the county jail after overpowering a detention officer, taking his sidearm and his vehicle. That prisoner, 34-year-old Jordan Earl Lynn, that's him right there, is considered armed and dangerous. Now, he was last seen wearing black and white striped inmate clothing and driving a Park County detention minivan. Herbst says Lynn was last seen around mile marker 11 on U.S. Highway 89 North. Now, surrounding counties and law enforcement agencies are searching for the escapee. Authorities say if you see Lynn, you should not approach him, but instead immediately call 911. Also, Montana has seen 115 fatalities on its roadways this year coming into this weekend. That number now 120 after a deadly 15-hour stretch from Saturday into early Sunday morning. First happened around 12:20 p.m. in Lincoln County, just west of Eureka, when a 68-year-old man on a motorcycle lost control and ended up in a ditch. He was pronounced dead on the scene. 5 hours later, a 20-year-old Billings male was a passenger in a crash near Belgrade that killed the 58-year-old Bozeman driver after their Chevy Suburban rolled on a dirt road. 3 more crashes led to 3 more deaths. A 59-year-old Ovando male, also driving a motorcycle, skidded into a ditch in Powell County, died in transit to St. Patrick Hospital in Missoula. 28-year-old female driving a Chevy Cruze died in Roosevelt County last night after hitting a ditch embankment, and a 49-year-old Geraldine man died after being ejected from his Dodge Ram. Neither of the last 2 were wearing seat belts. Well, summer only partway through, and Montana Department of Fish, Wildlife and Parks have already found more watercraft carrying mussels this season than all of last boating season. TN's Jonathan Amberian has more.
FWP leaders say 2020 was an especially busy year for aquatic invasive species checkpoints across Montana, like this one on Highway 12 outside Helena. But while the overall number of inspections they've done hasn't been as high this year, the rate of vessels they've intercepted has actually gone up. During last year's boating season, they completed around 174,000 inspections and identified 35 mussel-contaminated vessels. They've intercepted 39 mussel-fouled boats since the start of this year's season, after just under 53,000 inspections.
It's hard to say why we are at a much higher rate of contaminated boats, but the good news is that we're catching them. People that are bringing them in, that we're getting them stopped and cleaned up.
All boats are supposed to be inspected for invasive species when they come in from out of state, cross west over the Continental Divide, or enter the Flathead Basin. Leaders say compliance is generally good, but game wardens are watching and will pull over drivers who fail to stop. Montana has been emphasizing the importance of not spreading aquatic invasive species for years. And even as more boats with mussels are being stopped, leaders believe the message of cleaning, draining, and drying watercraft is getting through.
What you see now as opposed to 3 or 4 years ago is people are really adopting the clean, drain, dry message, and the concept that, protecting our waters in Montana is everybody's job.
Most of the watercraft inspection stations across the state will remain open through September or October. In Helena, Jonathan Amberian, MTN News.
In other headlines now at 6:34, Congress continues to negotiate not one but two major pieces of legislation this week. The bipartisan infrastructure framework is meant to address concerns like poor roads and bridges, while a separate spending proposal by Democrats aims to fix issues such as the high cost of childcare. But also included in that spending bill is a possible change in health care benefits for older Americans on Medicare. Our Joe St. George shows why vision, hearing, and dental benefits could soon be covered for the first time.
Nationwide, around 62 million Americans rely on Medicare for their health insurance coverage. The vast majority of those in the program are older Americans who use the benefit to go to the doctor for a checkup or get treated at the hospital when they get sick. The program was created by President Lyndon Johnson and Congress back in 1965 and is paid for in part by taxes that come out of our paychecks. But the program never included dental, hearing, or vision benefits. Tricia Newman analyzes Medicare for the Kaiser Family Foundation, and she explains why.
At the time, vision, hearing, and dental really were not integrated into healthcare benefits. And when people talked about creating a Medicare benefit, they were really thinking about hospital services.
Well, that may soon change. Democrats continue to work behind the scenes this week on their multi-trillion-dollar spending package, which is separate from their attempt to pass a bipartisan infrastructure bill. The spending package, top Democratic leaders say, includes vision, dental, and hearing benefits for the very first time, which would mean those older Americans who want coverage would no longer need to buy private plans. The estimated cost, $300 billion, and while details are scarce, it would likely be paid for through a combination of higher premiums and taxpayer dollars.
This would be the first major expansion in Medicare benefits since the drug benefit came into effect in the early 2000s. So it's a big deal.
Newman says it's a big deal, especially for dental coverage. Her organization has estimated the average Medicare retiree spends $922 each year on dental care. 37 million Medicare recipients have no dental coverage at all because of the cost. Half of all Americans on Medicare report not going to the dentist in the last year.
But it's important to remember this piece of legislation is still very much in its early stages. It could be weeks or even months before a vote takes place.
In Washington, I'm Joe St. George.
6:37, back here at home, it's the road trip adventure story of the summer, making its way from Montana around the globe. Here's Holly Brantley out on the road.
I am Holly Brantley with the BAM bus crew in Missoula. It is the story of the summer. 3 chicks who busted their cheating boyfriend in what was way beyond a love triangle. But they decided to turn the tables by becoming friends, buying a bus, and embarking on the adventure of a lifetime. It's the tale of 3 young women brought together by one mutual acquaintance of sorts. We're going to pretend his name was Tom, and now plenty of people around the world would actually like to thank Tom for being the catalyst behind this summer's feel-good adventure story that looks something like Family Vacation meets Thelma and Louise and currently takes place right here in Montana.
We love just being able to go find adventure.
The real-life movie stars, Morgan and BEKAH from Boise and Abby from Salt Lake, young women who became instant celebrities in mid-July when their story hit the Washington Post.
It felt like the universe trying to tell me something.
Morgan says she never suspected her childhood friend turned boyfriend was cheating until she uncovered some questionable activity on social media, accounts featuring her boyfriend with another woman.
I was devastated by it. And then I DM her and she was like, oh my gosh, I've almost sent you the same message. We need to talk.
Morgan and the other unsuspecting lady, Malia, followed his trail and uncovered a half-dozen other women involved with their man.
So then Abby enters into the picture.
And what happened from there became a moment made for a movie.
Lo and behold, I hear this rumbling outside, and it's him and his car. And I look out the window, and I still have Abby and Malia on a FaceTime call, and I go, ladies, it's showtime. So he finally is like, yeah, how's your day been? I'm like, my day's been so good. I've made some new friends. And I say that as I'm reaching back, and I grab my phone from the counter. I flip it in his face to Abby and Malia on a FaceTime call.
The ladies, caught in a web of lies, decided to turn what might have been a negative experience into an inspirational story of friendship, connection, and adventure.
We all had this independent dream from each other of living on the road or something adventurous of that sort.
They bought a bus, renovated it, and started planning to hit the road.
It was really important for us to be able to put our energy into something productive rather than destructive.
I got the Grand Bus tour.
You can see our little sunshine on the steps.
They are set up to rough it.
We do our laundry in creeks sometimes.
But with a touch of class.
This is our couch named Pamela.
They have a hardwood floor, plants, and other cozy comforts.
Gotta show off our sink.
Running water and an emergency bathroom, a source for power and electricity to charge their devices.
We do a lot of cooking on our butane stove.
Each has a bunk and a place for their bikes. As for who drives this rig, they all do.
Driving this thing is a beast, but it's really fun.
So far, they've been to the Grand Tetons, Bozeman, and across much of Montana.
We made so many lifelong friends and connections and doors open for us.
Meanwhile, this fine crew has become famous. They have nearly 60,000 Instagram followers, including celebrities like Reese Witherspoon.
When Reese followed us, we literally we were all laying on the floor, just sobbing.
The message to their followers: this bus trip adventure is not about getting back at an ex-boyfriend. It's not about revenge, not in the least. It's about making the most of every moment of your life, uncovering what could be beautiful, looking forward, and only reflecting on the past with a smile.
It's way better to place that energy into something good. We feel so privileged to be able to do this.
To keep following this fine crew on their adventures, check them out at the BAM Bus on Instagram. For MTN News, I'm Holly Brantley.
Now, Holly tells us all three are employed. They bought the bus with savings and are funding the trip through remote work and other projects. Caught up with them in Missoula. After that, Glacier Park, then the Pacific Northwest. They say they also plan to stay on the road at least through the fall. Make this the first of many new adventures. Good stuff there. That would be fun. Matt and I.
Let's do it.
We're out of here. 6:40, we'll come back. When we do come back, commuting time to work used to be a big factor for people buying homes. Coming up, find out how that is changing, to say the least. But first, here's a look at what's coming up at 7 o'clock on CBS This Morning.
Good morning. Ahead on CBS This Morning, the Delta variant is fueling a rise in COVID cases in all 50 states. We'll take you inside a hospital where unvaccinated patients are urging others to get the shot. Plus, a CBS News investigation, Kenyan writers tell us how they get paid to complete American college students' assignments and sometimes their entire degrees. And we'll discuss the stunning loss at the Olympic for men's basketball and a surprise in women's gymnastics. Also, if you don't know what an eggplant and stale fish are in sports, you're not alone. See what's getting a lot of attention in Tokyo. All coming up when we see you at 7.